Back to normal on Tuesday after the holiday. And on the line with me right now, thanks again to Miss America for coming in studio. Make sure to watch Miss America next Sunday night. Tickets at missamerica.org. But on the line with me right now for the Stark Report is ESPN senior baseball writer Jayson Stark on the line, sponsored by Team Nissan, the spot where the checkered flags drop. Jay, how are you?
Pete, I'm good. My first time ever following Miss America. Pretty excited about that.
That's correct. She was in studio. She had her crown. She's much better looking than you are, buddy.
Well, the bar's set pretty low there. But
All right.
Thanks for that.
All right, enough tomfoolery. All right, let's get to some serious stuff here. Phillies up in Fenway this weekend for an interleague set. First, let me just ask you about Fenway Park in general. I mean, I know you've been to ballparks all around the country. Where does Fenway Park rank for you in baseball? Well,
I try to have a separate category for parks like that versus the new parks, the AT&T Park, PNC, that kind of thing. But Fenway is almost a category unto itself anyway. I always think back, Pete, on the scene in Field of Dreams where Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones walk up the ramp in Fenway, and James Earl Jones sees the ballpark laid out in front of him with the green grass and the lights shining and the green monster, and it really takes your breath away. It took his breath away, and when I walk into Fenway, I always feel the magic, feel the history. Look out there, look for the Ted Williams seat where Ted supposedly hit that home run way over the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
First time the Phillies ever played there. Remember the coaches went out there and sat in that seat just to see how far it was. Just so many cool aspects to that place that are just one of a kind, man. It was built a century ago. It's incredible.
Let's talk about Mikkel Franco. I know he's been on the DL with that fracture. There's some hope that he could possibly come back in the month of September, but are the Phillies just better off shutting him down for the rest of the season?
There's not a lot to be gained by playing him, and it's just going to depend on how much progress he makes, how he feels. Either way, though, I really admire the fact that Mikkel Franco didn't go home, didn't go to Clearwater, didn't decide he should just rehab. He's traveled with the team. You can see the joy he takes in playing baseball, being in the major leagues, being in the ballpark. That always tells me something about a guy. I mean, there's a really prominent player making $25 million who got hurt in spring training, hadn't showed his face one day the whole season. I think we've learned something about both guys this year.
How about a guy that they acquired in the Chase Utley trade, Darnell Sweeney, coming over from the Dodgers? He's been batting leadoff. He's been playing left field. And he's kind of shown some power. He's got 3 home runs this year. I know a lot of people didn't expect much in return for Chase Utley, but how about Darnell Sweeney and the month of September that he should be having?
Yeah, that was a really good deal. I don't think Darnell Sweeney is going to be a star. He doesn't even really have a position. But, I had a scout friend of mine send me his scouting report on Darnell Sweeney at the time the trade was made. And it's interesting to see the way scouts looked at him even then. Again, because he doesn't have a position, probably a utility guy, but definitely a step up from, say, Michael Martinez, right? Because he's got speed, he's got power, he's got tools, he's got energy, he's got versatility. And he might be a guy you can bounce all over the diamond and get production from in a lot of different ways. A very intriguing player.
How about the guy going tonight, Jay? And Jayson Stark, ESPN senior baseball writer with me for the Stark Report, sponsored by Team Nissan, the spot where the checkered flags drop. The guy going tonight, Jay, is Adam Morgan. As far as young pitchers go, Aaron Nola's been the guy, but Adam Morgan, 5-4, 4 ERA. Is this guy someone that the Phillies can build with towards the future, part of the rotation? Is he just a Kyle Kendrick type pitcher? How about Adam Morgan for you, Jay?
Pete, before Adam Morgan got hurt, he was viewed as kind of a Cliff Lee in the making. And if you watch him, watch his actions, watch his delivery, you can see why. Now, he has not come all the way back from the shoulder. And it shows in his strikeout total. It shows in the way he has to really huff and puff and pitch to get outs. But this was a guy who had 0 wins in the minor leagues this year.
Wow. When
he got to the big leagues, and has really opened some eyes. I think as you look at their team, it's really hard to say, all right, beyond Aaron Nola, who's in the rotation next year? Well, right now, Adam Morgan would be in it, and that's a credit to him.
Let's talk about the team that the Phillies will be playing this weekend up at Fenway, the Red Sox. They spent a lot of money this offseason, and they're 15 games out. I mean, they've been below 500 pretty much all season long. How did the Red Sox get to this point? I know they just made a change in the front office, but how did the Red Sox get to this point, Jay?
Well, they made 2 evaluations this winter that just turned out all wrong. One was they didn't feel like they needed to go out and get an ace over the offseason because the price tag was too high. I figured they could save that for July and that they would just bash and smash and mash their way into contention and worry about it then. Even though when you looked at their rotation, you could see there really was not a top-of-the-rotation starter in the group. And, it turns out that rotation has been way worse than they estimated it to be, and they just haven't been competitive because of that. It's been one of the worst rotations in the major leagues. So the onus fell on the offense, and the offense has been incredibly disappointing. Incredibly. Now, they have scored a lot of runs since the break, but, the 2 big centerpieces of their offseason were Pablo Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez, and they've both been incredible busts. They've been bad fits. They were dreaming, hoping, praying Hanley could play the outfield. Dave Dombrowski's already pulled the plug on that. And Pablo Sandoval, he had a really good year defensively last year, switch hitter, has been a mediocre defender, given up switch hitting, slugged under 400, and both these guys have humongous dollars coming. And so they've got just an unbelievable challenge ahead of them to try to dig out from some of the roster messes they've made for themselves.
Yeah, and they lose John Lester to the Cubs, of course, in the offseason. Do you envision them being active for an ace pitcher, whether it be a David Price or someone like that? Do you envision Boston being active in trying to get another ace back up to Boston?
Dave Dombrowski's already said that. He doesn't think he can win a World Series without an ace. There are a lot of potential aces to choose from. And so this will be an interesting winter because, look, Ben Sherrington wanted to go out and get an ace too, and he was restricted by ownership, a group that didn't want him to give any pitcher more than a 4-year contract, and you can't sign a top-of-the-rotation starter if you've got that. And so if they go into free agency, we'll see how much clout Dave Dombrowski has. And the other thing to remember is they have one of the best systems in baseball. And ultimately, that's going to serve them well. Dave's reputation, his history has shown he's a guy who uses prospects to go out and make trades for big names. They'll be targeting all the different aces out there on both the trade market and free agency. I'd be shocked if they don't come away with at least one.
Jayson Stark on for the Stark Report, sponsored by Team Nissan, the spot where the checkered flags drop. 2 more for you. Wanted to focus on the 2 races going on right now in the National League, Mets and Nationals, and Dodgers and Giants. First, Mets and the Nationals, are they going to pull away with this thing? Does Terry Collins, in your opinion, have to get to the finish line in order to kind of validate himself with the fans? First on the Mets and Nationals race to the finish, Jay.
Well, the Mets have already pulled away.
Right.
It's funny. You remember the Phillies did some business with the Nationals at the deadline and traded Jonathan Papelbon there. It's pretty much been a disaster, right? I mean, he's been fine. He's been good. Ken Giles has twice as many saves as he has, but they won the first night he got there. He got the save. They took a 3-game lead. They were 8 games over 500. Since then, 14-19, lost 9 games in the standings. Their bullpen is unraveled. And I think it's too late because the Mets look like a runaway train. I tell people all the time, the Nationals can't catch the Mets. The Mets would have to catch the Nationals. They've got 7 games left against each other. The Nationals just about have to sweep that series or that race is over. And I mean, they've always been vague about Terry Collins' future. I think he's got to win the division. He will, and I think he probably has to win at least one series. It's just always gotten the vibe that Sandy Alderson wants a different guy. He didn't hire Terry Collins. Remember that.
How about finally, Jay, Dodgers and Giants? Giants, they've lost 6 in a row. They get the walk-off on Friday night against St. Louis, and then they haven't won a game since. They ran into Greinke and Kershaw in that series against L.A. Where is this race at for you? Is that race over?
Yeah, I think it is. I've seen the Giants work a lot of magic, and I always hate to count them out. They've got a really easy schedule the rest of the way. They've only got 3 games left in 4 weeks against teams with winning records, but I think they're done. And it's funny. A week ago, we had to make a bunch of predictions at ESPN. Who do we think were going to win all the different divisions and the different wild card slots? And I looked at the standings and thought, every team is not going that's in first place now is not going to finish in first. And so when I looked at the teams I thought were the most vulnerable, I picked the Dodgers. So that worked out well. The Giants were going in there. They've played. The Dodgers haven't been able to beat them all year. I figure if the Giants even just won one game, they had the easiest schedule, and sooner or later they were going to get healthy. They were the team. Instead, they get swept, lose 3 straight one-run games, get blown out in Colorado, and I just don't see what the scenario is now, where they come back and make up a 6.5 game deficit, 7 in loss column. Just not a team that has enough pitching, enough thump, or enough health to make that happen.
One more for you, Jay. I know you have to get out of here, but over to the American League, Millville's Mike Trout, since August 1st, I saw a stat, he has about 1 home run or so since August 1st. The Angels, they're about 5.5 out. What has been going wrong for Mike Trout?
He's not healthy. If you remember the play where he made a diving catch coming in on a ball in center field and landed on his wrist and shook his wrist the rest of the night, he keeps playing. So you'd think, well, anybody goes out there every night must be healthy. But he has not been the same offensive player since, and that's not a coincidence. I don't know if there's a more important body part for any hitter than his wrists. But if it's not first, it's in the argument, and you just don't see the ability to drive the ball anymore. The ability to have the same plate coverage. His numbers have plummeted. He's probably gone from the front runner in the MVP race to one of the guys chasing Josh Donaldson. Still a great player, and I really admire the ethic of somebody like that who's not healthy and keeps playing every day because his team needs him, but he's just not right.
Absolutely. Jayson Stark, Team Nissan, with the spot where the checkered flags drop. They bring you Jayson Stark every Friday at 3:05. Jay, thank you so much for being so accommodating with Miss America, and have yourself a good Labor Day weekend, okay?
You too, Pete. Thanks, man.
All right, see ya. There goes Jayson Stark. Again, thanks to him every Friday afternoon.